here.
I can see that. Some of these legends. So the other, I was going to start. So this two.
Good, go ahead.
Town Council meeting for Monday, April 27th, 2006, come to order. Thank you very much. First agenda item we have here is the approval or adjustments to our agenda. Do you have any changes or you want to have made or adjustments?
No.
Okay.
So, Mayor, does that include the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, so I do have a
No.
couple, I do have a couple of questions.
Change to the agenda. Does that include the?
Include changing the consent agenda, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I have one question concerning the MSD board appointment. Do we have confirmation that Mr. Darth has resigned from his seat?
As much as we can get at this point.
Is that a yes or no?
It's a yes.
Okay,
He wrote a letter of resignation?
I have a text that he sent me.
Oh.
So,
okay. Yeah, the only reason I bring it up, the board actually requires him to notify them that he's stepping down.
I think we covered that with the text that he sent me about he wasn't going to be able to come to the county council or to town hall anymore. So we spoke about that with their assistant town manager, and we moved forward based on that.
Okay,
But I think his question is, did he write a letter to the sewer board?
I do not know the answer to that,
So
so we'll check on it and find out.
I think that needs to happen before we move forward.
It might be a little difficult considering his situation at this point in time. So,
yeah, I guess my only point is if we don't have confirmation, maybe we should delay until we can assure that the seat is empty.
and if the council feel about that, then we'll lay that and move forward.
I think we should wait.
Okay? That's fine. So wait, okay, well, wait until we can get clarification.
Thank you.
But we probably still need to have somebody attend.
Yeah. And Mark?
You're gonna back him up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you've been going to meetings anyway, right?
Not the MSD ones yet,
Okay.
but I've read the minutes and sort of well versed in
Yeah,
the
you're up to
board
speed, very
at
much.
this point.
Has anybody from the staff attended the MSD meetings?
No.
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 Okay.
Is there an issue with just appointing Mark and then getting the resignation letter later, given his health concerns?
I think it'd be cleaner to wait
Okay,
and do it all next.
all right, very good.
All right, we'll do that. Okay, anything else for the agenda?
Good.
All good.
All good? Okay. We have a couple of public hearings this evening.
Approve the
We need to approve the
adjustment.
minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Have a move to approve. Was there a motion made?
I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you. Okay, so the first, got all of this stuff we have to read here. Town Council has one or more public hearings on its agenda tonight, and the rules that Town Council has adopted for public comments will apply. Copies are available on the website in the meeting room. Public hearings are topic-specific. Comments on the topics were allowed to be submitted in writing in advance of the meeting, and others will be received during the hearing. Normal rules of decorum apply to all comments, and duplicate comments are discouraged. Actions and behavior can be questioned, but personal attacks will not be tolerated. This is a time for Town Council to listen, and Town Council and staff may not necessarily offer any response during this time. Each public hearing is generally limited to 20 minutes. Comments during the hearing are generally limited to 3 minutes. The town manager keeps time. If the alarm indicates that your 3 minutes are up, you will not be cut off in mid-sentence, but you will be asked to wrap up your statements. You must be recognized before giving your comment, and you must come to the podium to speak so we can all hear you. You should identify yourself by name before beginning your comments. Written comments timely received before the hearing have been or will be provided to Town Council, and we have received those. Thank you. Okay, so the first public hearing is the updated comprehensive land use plan. Mr. Eller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's hard to believe that tonight may be the conclusion of the process that started just under a year ago. But the current goals of the comprehensive land use plan, which was last updated in January 25, call for a comprehensive update of the plan. On October 6th of 25, and during a joint meeting with Town Council on February 9, 26, the Planning Board reviewed the components of this proposed plan. And during their March 2nd, 2026 meeting, the Planning Board has reviewed a draft of the plan and offered a unanimous positive recommendation to Town Council for adoption. State law dictates that the adoption of a comprehensive land use plan must be treated in the same fashion as a zoning map or text amendment. Therefore, tonight's public hearing is required. Before I turn it over back to the mayor and for him to call on the general public, I would like to just mention a couple other things. If anyone has any questions of me regarding this document, or perhaps as a result of any comments that are received tonight, I'm happy to address those during the action portion of your agenda. I would also like for us to remember that in 2025, the town conducted a pretty solid public input process for this plan. Along with that was an online survey that produced over 300 comments, and staff also held in-person sessions that had around 45 attendance of those. The only other thing I'd like to mention, we amended this yet again even today. The only difference in this document that you will be asked to consider adopting tonight is on page 5 of the plan, which simply updated the date of adoption to tonight's date. If that changes, we'll obviously have to circle back to that. And then also when this went out to the public for review, the most recent growth area resolution had not been adopted yet. Town Council did that at your previous meeting. And so attachment C has been updated to include the 2026 version rather than the 2025 version that was included in this document when it went out to the public. At this time, it would be appropriate for Town Council to hold this public hearing.
I don't have anything.
Anybody have anything they want to add to this, or?
Well, I'll say to the folks who poured so much effort into this is extremely impressive to me. The only thing is, I'm gonna have to go back to the eye doctor to see these incredibly rich images, and I promise it's not my age. But if you can somehow expand these incredible maps where we can at least see what the legend is, I think it would be very useful.
Yeah, I supplied James with a set of maps to do what I thought would improve some of the figures, and offered that if any map needed to be revised or updated, that I could do that. So my services are available if anybody, and, as a town council rep,
No, I think it's very well done.
Yes, yeah.
Any other comments? Yeah. We have one speaker who wants to speak on the subject of the comprehensive land use plan. Darla?
Did you open the public hearing?
I thought I did.
Darla Letourneau, resident, 16 Lakeshore Drive. In response to the town's outreach asking for public comment on this draft, on March 25th, I submitted extensive comments. I would note that the draft comp plan today is unchanged from the version that the public was asked to comment on. While this plan correctly identifies our growth pressures, and I agree with Phil that it's a very well done plan, which I've said in my written comments, it does lack the specific tools necessary to ensure that growth aligns with our strategic goal of sustainable growth. It's not that it was supposed to be in here, it's just it's really important to remember this isn't the end, this is the beginning. Once this is updated, the town really needs to prioritize in developing specific land use codes and ordinances, zoning ordinances, that transform this plan into actionable policy. A top community priority reflected in our 5-year strategic plan is the need for parks, greenways, sidewalk connections, pedestrian safety. Yet we have seen little progress. While funding is a key tool in addressing this priority, it is not the only tool we have. The town needs to use its regulatory power to require walkability. Our current lack of requirements is evident in a couple of recent projects. The Palisades at Reams Creek has no walkable access to Lake Louise, which is just a couple blocks away. And the Northridge Farms development was permitted without requirements to connect the existing and planned infrastructure. Connectivity must be a mandatory part of the permitting process for all projects, not a point of negotiation on a project-specific basis. I urge the planning board and staff to review the materials I provided regarding Davidson, North Carolina, that offers a very successful roadmap for navigating growth while achieving a truly sustainable, walkable community. I made some specific comments on the Parks and Rec section. In particular, the discussion of the active Weaverville bicycle and pedestrian plan is troubling. It suggests, and it could be just misinterpreting, but what it says is that since most of the sidewalk projects on the plan's priority list involve NCDOT roads, the committee's efforts should be redirected to more general recreation matters, i.e., there's nothing we can do, so let's do something else. That doesn't make sense to me. Almost all the roads in town, with the exception of a few neighborhood streets, are NCDOT roads. So we must find ways to work with them to meet the local needs for safe connectivity for walkers and cyclists. It becomes even more critical that we have a connected network as our roads become busier with growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no other speakers, so we'll close this public hearing at this time. I'm going to open the public hearing for code amendments. So, Marler, you're up again. Sorry.
Okay. Darla Letourneau, resident, 16 Lakeshore Drive. I'm speaking in strong support of the amendment to the town's zoning regulations to add crypto mining and data centers to the list of noxious uses that could be harmful to health and the environment if not properly regulated. Currently, the regulation list of noxious uses includes such things as power plants, water and sewage plants, landfills or recycling facilities, outdoor firing ranges, junkyards, etc. Clearly, these two new types of uses, crypto mining and data centers, belong in this list of things we don't want to see in our community due to power and water consumption as well as noise generation. Data centers are energy guzzlers that consume 10 to 50 times more power than the typical commercial building. Massive energy demands often force utilities to invest in expensive power upgrades or grid upgrades, and those costs are often passed on to residential ratepayers through higher electric bills. While the projects involve large capital investments, they often create very few permanent jobs once construction is completed. Residents near existing data centers report a constant 24/7 droning hum from the cooling fans that disrupts sleep and impacts health. Weaverville is on a path of accelerating growth, especially with the new Advent Hospital set to open in the next year or two. The town's 5-year strategic plan adopted last year is focused on growing in a way that is sustainable, enhances the quality of life of the residents, and preserves community character. With at least a dozen long-time light industrial manufacturing plants in Weaverville, we could become a target for data center industry, as some of these factories are closing. For example, in December 2025, the largest manufacturing plant in town, Thermo Fisher, announced that it was closing in early 2027. One of the primary tools for managing growth consistent with our vision is to have strong land use codes and zoning ordinances that turn the town's strategic plan and comprehensive plan into actionable policy and practice, just as I said in the last comments. This proposed code amendment is a good example of how our codes can be used to ensure that the community's strategic goals are achieved. Thank you.
There are no further comments on that public hearing, so we're going to close that one at this time as well.
I would like to say that I'll answer any questions that anyone may have during the action portion of the agenda, but I would like to state for the purposes of this public hearing, it has been duly advertised and you have received a recommendation from the planning board.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now have we close the public hearing. Okay, so the next thing on the list is I think there's a fire chief that needs to be dealt with. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Mayor, Council, tonight we have a badge pinning ceremony of Fire Chief Ray Canafax. His wife Kim and son Trey will be pinning his badge on. Chief Canafax is joining us. He retired out of the City of Huntington, West Virginia Fire Department as their deputy chief, working up through the ranks for a little over 20 years there. And prior to coming down here was still an adjunct instructor with West Virginia University's Fire Service for a little over 20 years. We're glad to have Chief Canafax on board tonight and his family down here. We've had an opportunity to work with him on several occasions, and his family's been back and forth in town to support him, so it's good that they can be here tonight. So Chief, Kim, Trey.
Just a few words to start with. Mr. Mayor, Chief Harris, distinguished members of council, thank you for this opportunity to have my badge pinned on me today by my family. It is truly an honor to be here. To Chief Harris and the town leadership team, to say that I'm humbled with the way you all have welcomed me and treated me like one of your own from day one would be an understatement. It's been great, and for that I thank you. They have really taken me under their wing, so to speak, and kind of shown me the way. To the members of the department that are present tonight and others that weren't able to make it today, you know, every day when I put this badge on and I put this patch on, it reminds me of why I'm here, and the reason I'm here is for you guys. My job is to protect them, keep them safe, get them the things that they need, and make sure that they're able to go home at the end of their shift safely. You know, it also reminds me that my job is to listen first, hear their needs, hear what they want, understand that, and then work to try to fulfill every one of those to the best of my ability. To the citizens, we're here for you. Our job is to protect you, and that we will do. To be a part of this community, to do the best we can to serve all of your needs is our goal at all times. And then to my family, they've supported me through this crazy ride that's brought me here, and I thank them very much. Thank you all. I appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here.
Congratulations, Chief. Glad to have you on board. I have another statement to read for you folks again tonight. Conflict of interest statement. It is the duty of the mayor and every town council member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflicts. Does any member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before town council tonight? No. Seeing none, we'll move forward. At this time, Town Manager Harris.
Mayor and council, for your consent agenda tonight, page 113, you have your February 9th Town Council Workshop minutes. February 23rd, you have your Town Council regular meeting minutes. Page 120, March 9th, Town Council Workshop meeting minutes. On page 122, your March 23rd Town Council regular meeting minutes. On page 129, you have a monthly tax report. 99.42% of the town's property taxes have been collected as of the end of March. This totals $4,823,851.63. At the end of March, there was $28,363 left to collect on the 2025 property taxes. Moving along to page 135, we have a budget amendment for the town has received $36,666 in April for reimbursement of our SRO duties, the school resource officer, that Weaverville Police Department provide in fiscal year 25-26. Moving along to page 137, board appointments. Council moved the MSD appointment to a later date. So tonight we have the tree board vacancies. For Paula Griffith, reappoint as a regular member of the tree board to serve a new 3-year term ending in May of 29. Andrew Shelton, reappointment as a regular member of the tree board to serve a new 3-year term ending in May of 29. Caleb Hudson, appointment as a regular member of the tree board to serve a new 3-year term ending in May of 29. Eleanor Lazetsky, appointment as an alternate member of the tree board to serve an unexpired term ending in May of 27. On page 139 is the annual presentation of the manager's delegated policies. Some policies are under review for possible revisions, and new policies are being considered, including guidelines for the use of AI appropriate for local government and the establishment of incentive pay program as allowed in the personnel policy. The incentive pay program is expected to incorporate some recognition for employee suggestions. Moving along to page 141 is a reimbursement resolution for vehicles, equipment, fire apparatus purchase. The fire engine with a delivery expected in November 26 for $1,092,804. A fire engine with delivery expected in May of 26, $1,052,346, and a rescue truck with delivery expected in 2028, $1,367,741. An equipment loan will be needed in order to pay for these fire apparatus. Town council authorized to purchase these vehicles and other equipment in the fiscal year 27 budget. Those vehicles and equipment could also be added to this financing. One of the fire engines will have to be purchased prior to the loan closing and receipt of the proceeds, so a reimbursement resolution is needed in order to allow loan proceeds reimburse the town for those upfront expenses. Moving on to page 144, a proclamation for National Public Works Week. Whereas in 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. We currently have just over 20 miles of streets. Lake Louise Nature Park, vital services could not be maintained or provided without the dedicated efforts of our local public works professionals. These are frontline workers, managers, and specialized staff are responsible for rebuilding, improving, protecting Weaverville's water supply, storm water management system, and road networks and public buildings, ensuring the safety, health, and quality and life for our citizens. Moving along to page 145, the Dry Ridge Historical Museum Quarterly Report, 324 visitors with a 135% increase over the first quarter of 2025. Volunteer hours of 580. They had kindergarten staff from Weaverville Primary attend with 84 students and 16 adults. They hosted a coffee talk and interview with former Public Works Director Dale Pennell, and some new showcases there. They have Black History Month featuring the Hillside School and local churches and family Bibles in their in display cases there. Their social media continues to grow on Facebook with recent post created a large increase in non-followers responding to their post related to the Coleman Footbridge. Received over 12,000 views. Additional hours added to schedule during the tailgate market and evening events at the community center to attract more visitors. Mr. Mayor, Council, that concludes your consent agenda. Need approval to adopt as presented with the changes that you made in the beginning of the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, my turn again. The town manager's report. Senator Julie Mayfield and Daniel Moffitt have sponsored a local bill that would remove the town of Weaverville from the 10% satellite annexation cap found under North Carolina General Statutes 160A 58(1)B. The local bill was filed on April 22nd as Senate Bill 811. Our Dry Ridge Historical Museum, a historic Main Street tour. The Dry Ridge Historical Museum will be hosting a tour on Main Street on Saturday, May the 2nd at 9:30 a.m. The beginning location for that tour will be at the Clock Lot, and the public is invited to attend. County approval of apartment complex was 10 Silverwood Farms. As you know, that came before council, was not approved for annexation. Council, the county has adopted that, or 168 unit apartment complex on 10 Silverwood Farms property to be known as the Belmont, has been approved by Buncombe County through a special use permit that was issued on April 8th. That permit indicates that they will have to add an inbound turning lane to Silverwood Farms Road to accommodate the anticipated traffic related to that development. Advent Health attended a groundbreaking ceremony with members of council and the mayor on March the 26th. We were notified on March the 30th that a certificate of need for the additional 129 bed request was not awarded to Advent. 95 beds were awarded to Mission HCA and 34 beds were awarded to Novant. Advent Health will hold a community engagement meeting forum 3 to 6 p.m. at the community center on May the 18th. That is Monday, May the 18th. Some handicap parking spaces on Main Street. C&T Paving began work on April 20th to increase the number of handicapped parking spaces for better access to Town Hall, the community room, and the Weaverville Library. Currently, there is one space in front of Town Hall and one space in front of the library. This work will expand the spaces from 2 to 6 and will ensure that all spaces are ADA compliant. Thanks for your patience as we work on this. As you saw tonight, we've still got some construction work taking place here in front of Town Hall while we modify those spaces. Speaking events, on March the 25th, I met with the HOA board to give an update at Rims Creek Golf Community. On April 22nd, a community engagement session regarding our budget was well attended here. There was approximately 20 members of the community and asked some good questions, some good dialogue and feedback on that. On April 22nd, we had the butterfly dedication at the Clock Lot that was well attended by the community. And then April 28th, we'll be attending the Weaverville Business Association meeting to give them an update on the town and the community for their interaction. The dedication of the butterfly, the unveiling and dedication ceremony for the red spotted purple butterfly that was installed at the Clock Lot. The mayor spoke, myself. We were there with, again, many people gathered for that event. We want to thank the community as well as the crew from Public Works for the phenomenal job they did with pavers there to make that so inviting and such a generating opportunity for photo aspects there. Our Main Street Nature Park summer music series, the Public Works crew's been working on repairing some minor damage to the stage and setting up the tent for the summer season. Staff has been actively working on the schedule, musicians for the event, which begins in June with the following schedule. June 6th, the band is still to be determined on that. July the 11th, Chronological Music will be a jazz band. On August the 8th, Chris Rozier, a singer-songwriter, and September 12th, Queen Bee and the Honey Lovers for swing. And those were well attended last year, and we look forward to participating in those again this year. The LIFT grant application for Outdoor Pickleball Center. Councilmember Barnett successfully uploaded our Phase 1 LIFT grant application for the Outdoor Pickleball Center located at 115 Rim Street Road on April 22nd. Prior to that, a memorandum of understanding was signed with the property owner stating that the mutual intent to enter into long-term no rent lease for this project. If the town's application is approved to advance to Phase 2, town council will be asked to enter into a lease by the end of May so the town council or town has control over the property that is subject to the grant. Our countywide fire tax district, on April 21st, the county commissioners voted to adopt the single-wide tax district. The tax rate hasn't been set yet for the new single-wide district. We understand that the county manager's proposed budget will include a recommended tax rate, and that is expected to be presented on May the 5th. We're unsure at this time what the county funding will look like for our budget in the North Buncombe Fire District, as we talked about previously in our budget workshop sessions. That portion of the budget for the fire aspect is still fluid in that due to not knowing what revenue will be generated with the new county tax rate and the disbursement of that. Our Arbor Day program and tree planting at Lake Louise. The tree board held their Arbor Day celebration on Thursday, April 16th. Planted a Carolina silver barrel, which is native to the southeastern region. We also celebrated the creativity and talent of our local youth as we showcased the poetry and artwork of the North Buncombe Middle and High School students and recognized winners for their artwork and poetry contest there. Stewart artwork and poetry is still currently displayed at the community center and will be displayed through the end of April. Paving at our Lake Louise, the paved walking trail has been completed and is now fully open to the public. C&T Paving has begun milling in the paving section of Lakeshore Drive from Quarry Road to Merriman Avenue, milling of the street, and paving is expected to start on, like I said, they started that project on April 27th. Some upcoming meeting and events. Public Works Department will be hosting an open house and the public is invited to attend from 3 to 6 on April the 29th. On May the 4th, Planning Board meeting here in Council Chambers at 4 p.m. May the 6th, Tree Board meeting here in Council Chambers at 6 p.m. On May the 11th, Town Council regular workshop meeting, which will be a budget session. On May the 18th, our Town Council regular meeting and public hearing for our fiscal year 27 budget. And on May the 25th, Town office is closed for the Memorial Day holiday observance. That concludes the manager's report, sir. Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Scotty.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another open comment for the public who signed up. So the first name on the list is Elizabeth Nagel.
So,
Yes.
Dee, one addition to Scotty's report. We missed Arbor Day in terms of planting our Christmas tree. But I'm not sure if now's the right time, but Director Reese basically nominated a couple of resolutions for that outstanding question. And, I would make a motion for council to authorize Director Reese to go ahead and pursue the plan that she proposed, and that is working with Reams Creek Nursery to acquire a donation, to the town to go to Lake Louise Park, and also to give the funds to Public Works to buy an artificial tree for Main Street to plug into our candlelight stroll event.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Say aye.
Can we have a little discussion on that first?
Yeah.
I thought, if I'm remembering correctly, Angela proposed a couple of different locations for a tree. And then Reams Creek, essentially, the tree that they donated, they pulled back. They pulled back because we weren't exactly sure where one was
Because
going
we
to go.
didn't make a decision.
Right. And so then I thought we were going to identify the location and then work with Reams Creek to identify what tree would be best
That's the
suited.
motion.
Okay. Is that location figured out yet?
No, the motion is to basically empower Director Reese to figure that out.
Okay.
But the purchase of the artificial tree, we have no budget for.
Basically, Director Reese would tell us what she needs
Okay.
at some point.
Mayor, Council, if I may, one of the other discussions that you had at one of the previous meetings about the downtown tree was purchasing a live tree to use during the holiday season to place downtown on the clock lot.
That is not a workable solution.
One concern that I have in doing a live tree like that that's cut is wind, turning it over, it'd have to be secured. Who's gonna water it to keep it watered? This live tree that's been cut out in the hot sun may not
Yeah.
survive very well, so I do have concerns about a cut tree being placed in it.
It'll be, Scotty, it'll be fried calamari in 5 days.
Can we break out the two? The one of the donation tree and then the Christmas tree. Can we break those into two separate motions, please?
Okay?
Yeah.
Do you want to restate the motion?
Sure, I guess the first motion would be to authorize Angela to coordinate with Reams Creek Nursery on the tree donation and the planting location, and to come back to us with final decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second one is regarding the Christmas tree, whether it's a artificial tree or a cut tree for display at the clock lot.
So maybe we need to put that one in the next year's budget, because that would come in the 26-27 budget, so maybe we need to put that in the budget.
Yes, I mean, we can add that to the, because it would fall in that new budget cycle, right?
No, John, that sounds good.
Okay,
I think we can only have one motion open at a time.
So the
Yes.
motion on the table is to allow Director Reese to pursue looking for a tree and location for the tree
Is that
from Rings Creek.
functionally what you said?
Okay.
yes.
All in favor of having Angela Reese do the research necessary to make the tree happen? Say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Yes.
Could I make a suggestion that if you would allow me maybe a week to try to get you some pricing before you make a decision whether or not to budget a artificial tree, that could be a significant cost to the town, and it would be more informative to you as a council to make a better decision. If you would allow me maybe a week, we can have to try to get you some pricing.
I think if we put that in the budget for next year, I think there's plenty of time.
Yeah, that sounds
So let's
great. Thank
pull
you.
the second motion.
Yes.
Contemplate it and not vote on that. that goes to my point earlier when I said that we don't have a budget. We were presented with multiple options of very different numbers. So let's hone that in before we vote on it.
So we're gonna pull that second
Yeah.
motion
Yeah.
back and
Yeah.
deal with that, we get more information.
Councilmember Barnett seems okay with that.
Yeah.
Yes,
So, okay.
Everybody okay with that?
thank you, Mayor.
Everyone?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. So I have to get back on track here. Yeah, so town council appreciates the opportunity to hear from its residents, and a part of each of its regular meetings is reserved for that purpose. The rules that town council has adopted for public comments will apply. Copies are available on the website and in the meeting room. General public comments may be submitted during the meeting or in writing in advance on any meeting topic or any other item of interest. Since we had public hearings, the same rules apply that were reviewed earlier in the meeting for public hearing comments will apply to general public comments. The first name we have is Elizabeth Nagel. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Elizabeth Nagel, and I'm a town resident. I live on Aiken Road. I'd like to address the issue of the historic trolley bridge. Unfortunately, my sister Erica Franzi and father Bernie Conrad received a lot of grief online for their efforts to save the bridge from demolition. In trying to make the town and town residents aware of the historic nature of the bridge and its value to local history, they have been accused of doing this for personal gain, greed, and folly. It's been said already, but I will state it here again. Our family gains nothing by the bridge remaining. It's nothing we've ever used. It's not an added value. In fact, it's more of a liability, probably. My family has deep roots in Weaverville, not just when my grandfather and father moved down here in 1963. My mother's family, the Joneses, had already been in the area for generations. My mom's father built the Stony Knob restaurant and grocery store among his many enterprises. And my parents have maintained our family business through many tough times, employing hundreds of townspeople over the years. They have restored and maintained 2 historic homes, as well as very purposefully left many acres of prime property as woodland. In other words, they have a record of being an asset to the town. Our interest in the bridge has been solely about the town not losing an important piece of local history. It could remain a monument to the past while providing a beautiful entrance to the town. If Weaverville took on the care of the bridge, it could be improved as a gateway to the town. There was criticism of why, if we care about the bridge, did we not already fix it ourselves? We have always been told that the state owns the bridge and that they were to maintain it in perpetuity, that we were not allowed to fix it. The state had maintained it for decades, so there was an agreement that was honored until only a few years ago. If Weaverville does take over ownership of the bridge, the cost of repair and maintenance is really a drop in the bucket to the town. But if a campaign is made by the town or the Dry Ridge Museum, then we as a family will generously contribute. If it's decided that the bridge must be taken down, then I urge all involved to request that the state remove it responsibly, preserving pieces which historic societies in town are interested in saving. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Judy Craig?
Thank you. I'm Judy Reagan Craggs. I am the current director of the Dry Ridge Historical Museum. I want to thank the council again for your continued support of the museum. Mr. Harris has already made many of the points that I wanted to make in our report tonight, so I thank him for that. I would say that we had a very successful coffee talk last Friday. We exceeded the limits of the multi-purpose room at the community center with 41 participants, and there was a great interest in the history of the trolley in Weaverville and the bridge in that event. It was about Weaverville after the first 150 years. Next week, we are going to have an evening event with Rodney Edwards, and he is going to share his stories of Rodney's Garage, and I think that will be extremely entertaining. As mentioned, the Historic Main Street Tour will take place this Saturday morning, and we are also planning other upcoming events this summer. to commemorate and help in commemorating the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Regarding the trolley Coleman footbridge, the museum recognizes DOT's position on the bridge and the difficulty of rebuilding or repairing the bridge. We do desire to support and commemorate the historical significance of the trolley in Weaverville's development. It really put Weaverville on the map. It was an important link with Asheville, and the trolley provided to Weaverville and to the college. The trolley is also important in the land in recognizing our local author, Sarah Coleman, who was an important author in her own right and was also married to the author William Sidney Porter O'Henry. But we would support commemorating the bridge in some fashion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm having a little trouble with the writing of this name, so I believe this is Louise Root.
Yes.
Good evening, my name is Louise Root. I'm a resident, I live at 27 Valley Drive. And I just want to extend a special invitation to you all on behalf of the museum to come see the newest exhibit in the community center, which is about the history of A.B. Emblem, from lace making way back when to sending patches into space recently. So, you know, I don't know if you all really ever think about the exhibits in the museum, and to the extent you do, maybe you think the town staff brainstorms, and then they have field trips to pack and look in the archives. No, the museum does the exhibits. And when I say the museum, I'm taking credit for things I should not take credit for, because I mean board members Patty Savage and Linda Sprague. And they do a great job with all of them. This is stepping a little outside of what we normally do, because normally the exhibits are from our archives, because what you see in the museum is really just a little bit of what we have. But this time, I think Patty and Linda really exceeded themselves, and it's a great exhibit. And I hope you can all stop by and see it. We're planning to have it up through the 4th, and it may go past that, but at least through the 4th, because of the connection between A.B. Emblem and the armed services and the wonderful 250th anniversary patches that they made. But at any rate, so I hope you all get a chance to stop by and see those as well as the other exhibits in the museum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chuck Horton.
My concerns are diminished, I've asked.
Okay. That's the end of the general public comment. So we have some discussion items to be talked about. We start at the top of the list, and the Coleman pedestrian bridge at the top of the list.
Mr. Mayor, Council, tonight you've got for a discussion action item involving the NCDOT pedestrian bridge. Was scheduled for removal due to identified hazards associated with the bridge and its current conditions. Legal spending taxpayer dollars over the bridge is not open for public transportation use. At your March 23rd meeting, Councilmember Nagel and the Conrad family request to have the pedestrian bridge crossover Marion between the properties located on both sides of Marion not be removed. So we had a meeting with DOT representatives, the Conrad family and town staff, and several citizens representing the WEDAC on March the 31st. During that meeting, the only option that DOT identified to save the bridge was a full transfer of ownership and repair, maintenance, and liability to the town of Weaverville. I met with DOT engineer, District Engineer Chris Dayton on the matter, and there's attached email in your packet dated April 2nd on some possible cost charges and estimates on that for the repair of the bridge. Those range from $37,682 and could exceed $100,000. So with some discussion with the town attorney and myself, both recommended the council not accept the transfer of the bridge for financial and legal liability reasons. I have a meeting scheduled with DOT tomorrow to hear what action town council has taken on this matter. So the decision on this matter tonight, and we will follow back up with them tomorrow to give them the pleasure of the council on how they would like to proceed regarding this matter. So now for discussion.
So responsive to Manager Harris, the town of Weaverville does not have a substantial inventory of historical assets. And the idea that, this bridge and its history tells a story about our town, I think is really significant. I'm not sure that we can win the argument with NCDOT. In fact, Mr. Thornton, who's in the audience, actually surfaced a 1900 deed to the easement for the rail that went through there. And it basically does not convey any rights to the property of the road. It basically is an easement. In fact, Elizabeth transcribed that today. It's all handwritten. It's an amazing document. But I think my advice to council would basically be, WEDAC, which is meeting tomorrow, can certainly entertain this $37,000 price tag to refurbish the bridge. Wherever it is placed, I think my request to all of you would be to give our citizen committee another 4 weeks to basically get organized with respect to fundraising. And Scotty, go ahead and have the meeting with NCDOT, but we'd like the opportunity to raise funds to salvage this important artifact for the town and basically turn it into, something that's really, admired, a readable story and something that could be lasting in terms of our historical assets.
It's my understanding
4
from
weeks. I need 4 weeks.
Right. My understanding from the DOT meeting we had last week, they were, or not last week, but on the 23rd
of March.
When we had that meeting, they were wanting to do something then. We did get them to push it out to tonight's council meeting.
So I know what they want to do, but that entire passage was completely choked with trees and debris after the storm. They had a chance to take it down then, and they didn't. So I don't think asking for another month to determine how we can salvage this historical artifact for the town is that much to ask.
I'll be glad to ask them, but what they were asking for council's decision on tonight is how council wanted to proceed. If council wanted to take ownership of the bridge, or if they wanted DOT to maintain ownership of the bridge.
No, I would recommend that DOT basically give those pieces to us to either reassemble or find another place, where tourists and visitors can actually learn about the history of the town. If it's completely destroyed and sent to the landfill, nobody will know the story.
So point of clarification, not necessarily salvaging it in place, but salvaging it and having it dropped off on town property to be addressed in the future.
Again, talking about all of this, these safety airbags to put around the thing, it's been there for 100 years. And now we're talking about airbags around the base of the bridge. I can make up all kinds of safety stories myself. It doesn't seem reasonable.
I think the mention of the safety things is for if and when the bridge would be repaired or updated, in that it might be required to bring it up to current standards.
NCDOT has had infinite days to do that, but now it's an issue, is my only point.
I just have
So-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. So what I would like to see is if we do have the bridge taken down, I agree with Phil that we do need to salvage the parts and pieces of the bridge. I hate to see it just taken down with a
Thrown away,
crane
yeah.
and thrown in a landfill. I would like to try to salvage the bridge so that we can preserve the meaning and the history of the bridge and find a suitable place to put it.
That sort of comes to my point. I don't know what cost the DOT has budgeted to take it down, or how they budgeted to take it down, but if you're gonna take care of it, it stands to reason it's probably at least a little bit more. But it sounds like from Mr. Barnett's comments it's sort of twofold. So I think the question to this board is, does the board want to accept ownership of this? And the DOT has mentioned how that needs to happen. There needs to be a plan, and he has to have some kind of time frame to have it done and accomplished in a safe manner. But my other point is that your proposal seems to be an entirely separate proposal, which might be a nonprofit raising money to take possession of it and store it somewhere in perpetuity itself.
Correct.
Or some other, but that's two different things for this board to consider. I think.
And Michael, let's roll the tape back. We had a 175-year-old forged iron mill wheel sitting in the mud in Reems Creek that the flood destroyed. We were given, as a town, $30,000 by FEMA to repair it. And, I don't know what Public Works spent in addition to that, but it was probably more. So, the point is, the mill wheel is important enough to the town of Weaverville to jump through hoops to put it back where it was. And I think, at minimum, we should consider what can we do to save the Coleman Bridge as another exhibit to the history of the town.
I'd say I support that as well. The threshold question of whether or not the town should take ownership of the bridge, I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. I'm not in favor of that. I don't think that that's the best use of town funds. Also, as a point of...
No funds are being spent, Peter.
But also, as a point of clarification, WEDAC is not the town, just for folks to know that. So if that money is raised by WEDAC to create this exhibit, the citizens should understand that that is not taxpayer money. Okay, so that's fine. So I am in support of having, if DOT is going to take it down, and I do not support the town taking ownership of it, mainly for liability issues, frankly.
In situ.
Yes, right, in place.
Yeah.
If they're gonna take it down, and if they can possibly place it somewhere without damage, it's just, I don't know how they're gonna do it. I don't know what that's gonna look like, but if it's possible, let's go ahead and see if that's possible. But just so everybody is very clear, if WEDAC or the Dry Ridge Museum comes up with the necessary funding to create this exhibit, that is not taxpayer money. And so, by all means, yes. Okay.
So bolt onto that, Director Reese is storing 4 pallets of mill wheel pieces.
She loves that.
Yeah, and I promised her within 12 months we'll get it out of her hair. But again, I mean, these are historical repurposing opportunities that we have that I'm encouraging us not to just throw away.
Sure.
So is the motion to save the parts and pieces for historic value on town property and for 12 months until a nonprofit can come up with the monies to have a plan to do something with it?
Yes, tomorrow is the 30-member citizen Waverville Economic Development meeting. I will challenge them to say the sand is in the hourglass. You've got this much time to raise this much money to get this and working with the town to create, you know, a really wonderful exhibit with a story about this. And that way we don't just let DOT take it to the landfill.
So maybe the question for Manager Harris is to ask DOT if they can dismantle it or in a way that it could be delivered to the town and not destroyed.
Again, I think their concern is going to be the ownership of it itself. If they're required to remove it, even if it's in pieces, then who accepts ownership and responsibility of it? Even the pieces left over, because it's not even determined that I'm aware of if there's lead paint on or anything else. So with the town accepting that, then there's another aspect that you've got to consider for removing of that lead paint, if they were to be lead paint or anything on that as a safety consideration in that aspect.
So, I've heard the lead paint allegation. Basically, we've got a number of historic homes in town that probably have at least 10 times the amount of lead paint on them that the bridge has on it. So, I realize there are regulations around, handling leaded paint, but I don't see a hazard with those pieces.
Okay. And Mr. Barnett, my role as the manager is to advise council and take direction from council. So the direction that council tells us to do, I'll relay that information to DOT, but I also have a due responsibility to inform you of some of the risk and make sure that you understand the liability and risk that you're willing to accept. So like I said, I'll be glad to take direction as y'all move forward on which way you want us to go in that. But it's the same, the reason I bring that up is it's the same way when we do a live burn for the fire department. If somebody donates a house to us to burn for training, then we have to have an asbestos abatement done on that house, and we're responsible for moving the asbestos prior to burning it. So that's my reason for just making sure you're aware that if there are any lead paint samples on that, then the town will be responsible for moving any of that lead paint and handling that aspect of it.
I realize everything's moving pretty fast here, wanting to move pretty fast here. Is there any way we could get any kind of greater clarity on accepting the bridge for town ownership if it does have sort of, some of these contamination issues? I know there's creosote on the wood, and then there's potential lead paint too, and what that means for the town if we want to do something with that in a public setting. It might end up being prohibitive to actually utilize some of these pieces in a public setting if they do present a health and safety risk. And then if we have those pieces and we can't do something public with them, which I strongly support. I think it'd be great to do something with the pieces as a commemorative item for the town. But I don't want us to get into a situation to where we then have to pay exorbitant money to sort of safely dispose of these pieces if that's their only option too.
So I want a couple of things. My concern has always been about the liability that might occur if someone were to be injured with that attached to that bridge in some way or another. And with that, set that aside, how is it going to get moved and who's going to pay for that? Because it can't stay where it is.
If DOT forces us to take it down,
Well, they would take it down.
yeah,
I thought DOT offered to provide us with the pieces of the
yeah,
bridge.
Mayor, if they take it down, I think, we would coordinate with Public Works basically to say, where can we store this until we can reassemble it? And, again, we talk about liability. We debated the liability about putting the wheel back. From what I understand, we're waiting for power to make the wheel turn. I don't know how I'm gonna keep kids off of it.
Yeah, it's not going to turn.
It looks like a lot of fun to me to jump on it and ride it around. The bridge doesn't move, it doesn't turn.
Should we?
No, but it's 20 feet in the air.
Yeah, but again, if NCDOT,
Should we?
I think the bridge is gonna come down unless we take full ownership with it up top. I don't think any of us really, so I don't know, I'm not supportive of that.
There's not, I don't think there's any support around the table for that.
Right, so I think the bridge is gonna come down, it's just a matter of, okay, as it comes down, can we park a public works truck underneath it, and have them put the pieces in the back of that? Can that happen? Maybe, I don't know. What to see.
Should we,
Until they start figuring out how to take it apart.
What
Nobody's
what
gonna know.
pieces were worth
I
salvaging
don't know.
on it? I mean, the metal beams, the creosote timbers. I mean, I would think the wood pieces could be reconstructed with other wood. Maybe the metal beams.
Director Craig has a comment.
I have a love for the bridge. I'm in favor of the bridge, but I would like to say that no piece of that bridge is original. It's been reconstructed over the years. The last time was during a rainstorm in 1970 when it collapsed, I think. And it was totally so there actually is probably no piece of the bridge that's original.
Okay.
What about a highway marker or a road marker?
Chuck?
May I address council?
Sure.
My name is Chuck Thornton. I live at 1 West Cove Street in Weaverville. There weren't very many of you all who actually attended this meeting. One of the main concerns that Mr. Deaton had was that the final choice is not his. It's the Adjutant General's office. And the liability, it's the Attorney General's office and the liability associated with it. Number two, they're talking $100,000 to put some sort of barrier along those concrete pylons that the bridge sets on. And I have one other issue. Is council willing to accept their offers? Because we're talking $15,000 some odd dollars just for traffic control to take it down. And I'm quite certain that there'll be that same cost in trying to repair that bridge in any form or other. And then is council willing to accept their estimate as gospel, or is council going to have to fund, and if they do approve the delay, is council going to fund a separate independent engineer's study? Thank you.
I just looked through some of the notes from the meeting. Scott had mentioned a few moments ago, and Chris Dayton, local engineer for DOT, indicated during the conversation that DOT cannot transfer ownership to a private owner. So that takes some of the discussion off the
Correct.
table.
Yeah, but,
Quick comment along the lines, as Chuck said.
Just another creative solution, Phil, because I think everybody here's read the tea leaves that the bridge is going to come down. That doesn't seem to be debatable. The thing you're talking about is it worth preserving? And what I heard Ms. Craig say when I read the John Boyle article is it's a copy of the original bridge. Okay, and it sounds like it was made in a way that might have some safety issues, with lead paint or things like that. If you're looking at raising money from WEDAC and private donors, why don't you just build a reconstruction of the original bridge in wood, find an old photo, make the thing look like it originally did, because this bridge never even went over a trolley, and it was put up in the 50s. So if you're going to put any money and time into something, try and recreate the original thing. It's going to have more historical value than what you're going to be messing around with here, which has zero historical value. And then at least you can say, this is what it looked like. This is a copy, it's a replacement bridge, so. Just my 2 cents.
Has a picture of the original.
Yeah, I've seen fuzzy pictures of the original, so just a thought.
That's a good
And-
point.
I think the historic marker is important, and I know there's a little bit of legwork to do on that, and it probably takes a lot of time. But I understand from staff that that's possible to make that request. Is that true?
Yeah, there was something, I read through those notes as well, and there was something about the ownership, in that some of that was a little unclear about who actually owned it. And it just seems like that this is a real moving target, but the idea of how much, what is the town gonna pay for in terms of removing it? Is that gonna be paid to DOT? Is that how that works? Or are we gonna have to get a contractor to do it? You know, it seems like there's a lot of stuff.
My understanding from the conversation, Mr. Mayor, was DOT, if the town took ownership of it, DOT would remove themselves from this project, and all liability with Attorney General's direction. The town would assume responsibility from everything from removing to directing traffic and all that's entailed with it.
It was pretty clear from the notes that I saw that they wanted no liability at all.
They wanted a resolution, they requested a resolution from the town to DOT indicating how the town intends to move forward, what plan it's gonna have for either rehabilitating or removing it. So that's the only mechanism I saw that sort of inferred granting extra time. A plan to take ownership.
Yeah. So are we reaching any consensus here, or do we need to?
So, again, whether we are able to acquire pieces from the existing structure or as Jeff said, reconstruct, a historical replica of what we had. My plan tomorrow basically is to challenge the citizen committee to raise the money to do that. So, again, I know we can't control NCDOT's, their hazard awareness, and, I agree, we are fortunate that we have not had any accidents there, because it is very narrow.
Yeah, and DOT has a lot on their plate right now since
They really do.
broke
Yeah.
ground on the connector, so.
Yeah. But we will, as an economic development group, we will pursue fundraising to create a historical exhibit.
But in the meantime, they need an answer to this one question. And it would be my suggestion, and I think it's the most prudent course, is to keep it as simple as possible. And they are asking direction from this council of whether or not we are willing to take ownership of this bridge, and I would tell them no. That would be my motion. My motion to this council right now would be, I move that we respond to the DOT's request on whether or not we are willing to take ownership of the bridge, and that answer is no.
I'll make that second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Well, I think it would be interesting to actually, if you're gonna make a facsimile, that you make a facsimile and let people know that's what it is. And it kind of removes all of this other stuff from the process, so I think it's a good idea. Anyway.
Thank you.
Mr. Andrews, you have the floor for the watershed property and emergency access and fuel loading.
Yeah, great.
Discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Myself, Assistant Town Manager Jennifer Jackson, Public Works, and others have been investigating ways to remedy the damage that was done by Hurricane Helene on our watershed property. I don't know if you can see these figures here. The first one shows what the forest canopy height looked like pre-storm, with trees over 100 feet tall, and then after the storm shows the extent of damage that occurred on the property. As a result, The property has tremendous number of down and damaged trees, and all the former roads, or if you want to call them roads, but access points on the property are completely inaccessible. And so once I got onto council, I started looking at ways that we could fix this problem. Mainly I was concerned about the fire hazard and also the safety hazard of the property. And through looking, I think we found a near home run of a proposal in that we found through working with eco-foresters, their local forestry group, a cable salvage logging operation that will come in and remove all down and damaged trees that are marketable for them. Through that process, we'll clear the existing roads that are on the property. Their equipment will only be damaging those road areas. The cable logging is a lower impact logging operation. And essentially what they do is they throw cables out, and then when they harvest a tree, they hook it to a cable and lift it off the ground and then bring it back to the tower to where the equipment's set up, and then they chop it up and then they remove it.
So it's, Mark, it's not a drag and load?
It's not, no. They will lift, they're kind of lifting the trees. There is some slight scouring, but then once it gets moving, it's lifted. And the only equipment is going to be on the old existing road bed. And so that is the majority of the damage. So, the property's under a conservation easement. We've gotten tentative okaying from them to proceed. Initially, they were very hesitant with the operations. They came out last week on a site visit with the State Forest Service, the North Carolina Forestry Extension Office, myself and our crew, and essentially everybody, especially the Forest Service, was strongly recommending removing as much fuel load as possible from the property, because they said right now if a fire breaks out, even if they put in like a fire break line, the fire would burn so intense that it would likely jump that line, and so there's no guarantee of safety. So the proposal that I bring to you is to authorize the salvage logging crew to do a salvage logging operation on the property. The proposal should be cost neutral in that what the salvage logging operation harvests should pay for the whole thing. There might be some expense to Public Works. We did talk about Public Works coming in and prepping some of the area ahead of time just to reduce the cost a little bit. That's mainly clearing an area and putting some gravel down as a loading area right off of Elk Mountain Highway, but then the rest should be cost neutral to us.
So obviously, supply and demand has no effect on the price of mulch in Buncombe County. Are they going to turn this into lumber?
Lumber, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
they'll be pulling out the bigger trees.
Okay.
Bigger than 24 dBH. And then they'll sell that as there's a ton of oak and hardwoods there, so the hardwoods are very desirable.
And Mark, if I remember correctly, you said this was kind of time sensitive.
Yes.
Because if the trees are on the ground, they start to rot.
The salvage logging window closes after about 2 years, and we're about 1.5 years into this.
Yeah.
And so time is of the essence.
It seems like this is a good idea, a good process.
Yeah. From talking with the logging folks, eco-foresters, I think we've compiled a really great group here. I think we've got a really neat story to tell. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking long-term on this to where this is step one, is to like remedy the safety and the fire issue. And then step two is thinking about, okay, what are we gonna do about invasive exotics? What are we gonna do about potential for reforestation if that's needed? But step one is we just need to be able to access our own property, which we can't do right now. I don't know, Jennifer, if you have anything to add there at all, or?
Well, I think anything we can do to mitigate fire danger is important. We're in a drought and there's, forest fires all around us. And I think anything we can do to mitigate that and clean that up with no cost to the town, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So somebody like to make a motion that we pursue this and move forward with it? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, good work.
That's a great idea.
Isn't that crazy? I know. When you go out there, you can't really see.
The Land of Sky?
Yes.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that everybody here is in anticipation of Advent Health's opening at the end of 2028. Just to clarify Mr. Harris's comments, Advent was not awarded the certificate of need for the 129 beds that they had requested, and some people get very confused with that, thinking it affects the current plan of the build, and it does not. So what we have broken ground on back in March was for the 67-bed hospital as originally planned, with the top floor being a shell for an additional 26 beds that are still in litigation. So yes, we are still getting a hospital. Yes, it's still going to be as scheduled on the 93-bed plan that we originally came up with, or the Advent came up with. The extra 129 beds that they requested were for a second building, so it does not impact the original plan of the build, and I know there was a lot of confusion about that. Those 129 beds, 34 were given to Novant Health for their cancer hospital out in South Asheville. The remaining beds were awarded to Mission HCA, despite all of the issues that Mission HCA has had. The justification that the Department of Health and Human Services gave was because of Mission's existing specialized and high-level complex care abilities. They are our regional stroke center, our regional cardiac center, our regional trauma center, our regional NICU. So all of those things are very important to all of us. But unfortunately, that hospital, as we all know, has had now 4 immediate jeopardy citations and 2 EMTALA violations since this hospital was purchased by HCA back in 2019. And if you go back and look at all of the citations that Mission has had, there has never been another citation with CMS, with EMTALA, or with immediate jeopardy since Mission was a hospital way back in the early 1900s. So it was a great hospital until it was sold. The immediate jeopardy designation is a very rare but severe designation by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. I'll refer to them as CMS. That indicates that a hospital's noncompliance poses an immediate threat to patient safety. This severe sanction indicates that a hospital's noncompliance with national patient safety goals and other initiatives such as adequate staffing ratios, patient identification, safe telemetry monitoring has placed patient health and safety at risk. While such findings are rare, our only tertiary hospital is Mission Hospital HCA. The latest immediate jeopardy was in February of this year, 2026, and right before then was October 25. There were only 13 hospitals that received immediate jeopardy warnings, only 2% of the CMS citations in 2024. Once the immediate jeopardy finding once they find immediate jeopardy, the hospital has 23 days to correct the deficiencies. But these deficiencies that Mission HCA has are recurrent. It's the same type of things over and over and over. A plan of correction is then submitted to CMS for review, and if the plan is accepted, then the immediate jeopardy is lifted. But because these issues are recurrent, there is now an independent consultant that is evaluating the leadership, policies for blood transfusions, and patient safety with a deadline to achieve substantial compliance by July 29th. And if that does not occur by then, Mission HCA does face potential termination of their Medicare and Medicaid funding. This plan has an oversight that includes a revaluation of the capacity and the competency of the hospital leaderships and the staff. I will tell you that the staff that are there are doing the very best they can with the staffing ratios that they have. The issue comes when you don't have enough staffing. 1/3 of the staffing ratio at Mission Hospital today, 1/3 of those folks are travelers. So many of their current staff members have left Mission HCA. Usually when there is a CMS survey that comes to the hospital, there's 5 or 6 surveyors that show up. I've been involved in these my entire career. But in this last survey, every surveyor from CMS came to do the survey. There were over 30 surveyors who came. And why am I talking about this here at Town Council? What does that have to do with Weaverville? Well, I serve as a delegate, as a municipal delegate for Weaverville, for the Land of Sky Regional Council. The Regional Council is composed of 4 counties, Transylvania, Henderson, Buncombe, and Madison, and there are 16 municipalities within that region. Land of Sky has spoken with CMS regarding this leverage that is available towards Mission Hospital from CMS. Like, what can we do? And really the only thing that they can do is tell Mission HCA that we will no longer allow you to bill for Medicare and Medicaid services. And if that happens, the insurance companies follow suit, which means Mission Hospital can't get any reimbursement for the care that they deliver, which means they would have to shut down. I don't know, those of you that have lived in this area for a long time may remember when the same type of thing happened down at Haywood Regional, and they did shut their hospital down except for the emergency room. That was all that was left open. However, Mission HCA can't close, y'all. We can't not have this hospital. Where are we going to go when we have a major stroke, when we have a major trauma, when we need an immediate open heart surgery? There is nowhere else west of Charlotte to do this. So it's essential that we work together as a community, as Land of Sky Regional Council, as you, as me, that we work together to try to help this hospital survive and make improvements. I've been working with Senator Julie Mayfield on some legislation and also a referendum, or I guess it's a resolution here to try to encourage Sam Hazen, who is the corporate CEO of all of HCA, not Greg Lowe at Mission, but the corporate CEO of HCA, to come to Asheville to have a conversation with the regional stakeholders. And Land of Sky Regional Council brought this to the council from the executive committee and has asked that the counties and the municipalities do this resolution to try to have our say-so in trying to get him to come and have a conversation with us. But this is a crisis of choice. We are in a healthcare crisis here because HCA chooses profit over quality care, to the point that they racked up $1.6 billion first quarter profits of 2026, and those profits outweigh the safety of the patients. And just last week, I know that Mayor Lawrence and Town Council has fully supported Advent Health's appeal for this decision made by Department of Health and Human Services on the 95 beds that were awarded to Mission HCA. And that letter of support was drafted just so that we can be on record as saying we support this appeal process. Advent Health represents the best alternative to this hospital monopoly that we are stuck with here in Western North Carolina, and we all deserve and demand the return of quality health care to our region. Advent Health will serve our town, our region, and our neighbors north as originally planned, no question about that. Our rural neighbors will continue to benefit from their outreach, as the hospital itself is the hub with many spokes that goes out into these rural communities. But in the meantime, I will continue to advocate for safe patient care of all of us with Mission Health. In 1 week, I personally served as a patient advocate for 4 patients and families at Mission Health as they were receiving care, and I will continue to do so. I do support the legislation that Senator Mayfield is presenting to our state legislators, as well as the Health Care Accountability Act that Congressman Chuck Edwards is presenting up in Washington. As other opportunities arise, I encourage all of us to advocate for improvements of Mission HCA and I will continue to advocate for all of us to receive safe health care in this region. But for today, our 4 counties in Land to Sky Regional Council have agreed that we will offer this resolution to Sam Hazen. Whereas Mission Health, which includes Mission Hospital in Buncombe County and their 5 satellite hospitals in Transylvania, Macon, Jackson, Mitchell, and McDowell counties, is the healthcare backbone of the Western North Carolina. And whereas Mission Hospital is the only one-level trauma center west of Charlotte and our only tertiary hospital within the 18 westernmost counties. And whereas for-profit, publicly traded HCA bought nonprofit Mission Health in 2019 and quickly made significant changes, including reducing Mission Hospital staff by the hundreds while closing primary care practices and reducing many services previously offered. Whereas hundreds of long-serving and highly skilled nurses and physicians, as well as numerous physician practices, have left Mission Health, and especially Mission Hospital itself in Asheville. Whereas due to these staffing reductions and other management decisions, Mission Hospital has been cited by the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services for immediate jeopardy in 21, 24, 25, and 2026. And whereas Mission Hospital was found to have violated the Federal Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act in 2024 and 2025. And whereas other hospitals in the Mission Health system have also experienced regulatory censure, including Mission McDowell Hospital and Blue Ridge Hospital in Spruce Pine, being cited for immediate jeopardy as well in 2021 and 2023 respectively. Whereas HCA has failed to provide sufficient resources and support for its staff, has failed to act on recommendations from nurses, and has created a culture in which doctors, nurses, and staff are hesitant to raise quality of care concerns with management. Whereas Sam Hazen, CEO of HCA, said at the time of purchase, "We are excited that Mission Health chose to be part of the HCA healthcare family. We look forward to investing in Western North Carolina and ensuring Mission Health's 133-year tradition of caring continues for years to come. This is a model partnership and one that we hope will be replicated to benefit many similar communities." And whereas due to HCA's management, Mission Health's tradition of caring has been severely impaired. Whereas HCA leaders, including Mission CEO Greg Lowe, have not met with community members at public forums or meaningfully engaged in community stakeholders to discuss conditions at Mission Hospital. Whereas HCA and Mission Hospital are not transparent or accountable to our community. Now, therefore, the Weaverville Town Council calls on Mr. Sam Hazen, as the leader of HCA, to come to Western North Carolina and meet with elected officials, healthcare advocates, and other community leaders to be accountable for HCA's decision at Mission Health, and engage in collaborative and transparent dialogue to develop a plan for long-term permanent improvements at Mission Hospital and throughout the Mission Health system.
Very nice, thank you.
Very well done, thank you.
Any comment, any discussion on that? Having spent some time at Mission Hospital in the recent weeks, I certainly agree that they're not living up to the standards that they used to have. So when you are wakened in the middle of the night and the staff is having a party in the hallway, it's not a good sign.
So, Mr. Mayor, do we have a motion to adopt this resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Town
Thank you.
Manager Harris.
Mayor and council, tonight, so in your discussion item will be some more direction on the budget in itself, which also offers an opportunity for public comment. So if you would like to see if there's anyone for public comments first, and then I can bring up some questions that we had moving forward as well.
Don't have anyone who's signed up for it. Does anybody would like to make public comment regarding the budget?
Okay. Seeing none. Previously at our May 11th workshop, you give us some direction on what our proposed tax increase was 4 cents. Our current tax rate is 38 cent. Revenue neutral was 27 cent. We proposed 31 cent with the budget that was recommended with a use of 1.25 on the fund balance. Council give us some direction to review reducing the fund balance and the opportunity or possibility of considering increase in taxes itself in that. So what we looked at is if you went to 6 cent, it would reduce the fund balance uses right around 900,000, so just under $1 million if you went to that 6 cent, which would be 33 cent on that aspect. So those are, and like I said, we'll come back to you with more information, but just trying to get some direction and guidance and before our next budget workshop session on what that would look like and what you were comfortable with in that request. Another item for discussion would be the outside funding source, since it was presented before. There was concerns about the amount that was in the recommended budget with the WBA, the Weaverville Business Association, 6,000, Senior Meals, 6,000, and the WEDAC Economic Development Committee, 2,000. So if you would like those increased or decreased or any direction on those, we'd be glad to take some direction on that for outside funding sources or contributions. And then as we talked about staffing and the hiring of staff, and as Councilmember Young just pointed out with the HCA stuff, some things are contributed to staffing in itself. So as what was presented, if you felt that you were going to be comfortable with the staffing that was recommended in the budget, which was one HR position, a half year on finance, then a half year on a maintenance tech, one water treatment plant operator, and 2 police officers. If you felt that those were going to stay in there, but obviously if you need some more time to discuss and see the totality of the budget, we're fine with that as well. But if you felt that those positions were going to remain in there, then if you would provide some guidance on being able to go ahead and post those for the recruitment process so that they could start as early after the budget year as possible, if you felt comfortable with any of those positions, or if there's positions that you think that we need to add that weren't brought up, or if those positions, any of those that you would like to see removed from that. Just looking for some guidance so we know what to come back to you with at the next budget workshop session. And again, we'll take any, and also I've made a note to add in the budget for the Christmas tree itself. So I've already made that note, so I'll be, any direction that you have for us to come back at our next budget workshop session, if council has anything, we'll be glad to take that so we can bring you back what you need.
Mr. Harris,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to advocate for the meal site continuing to get the amount that we've been giving them.
Okay.
This is a way that we can support our senior citizens here. Some of those people that not be their only meal for that day. And I want to make sure that does stay in this budget and that we can support the meal site as we have for several years there. One concern that I have for the Weaverville Business Association, I support them, I do, and I think they do a lot of great work. I am concerned about the amount of funds that they incur on the town when we have multiple projects that we do, and I believe the numbers that I saw were around $85,000 that we provide in services to them when they have Music on Main and Art in Autumn and all these other events that they have. And I just don't see how we could support a continuing of those funds when there is no max cap on that. And so I would like to recommend that we have a maximum cap of service line item that we provide to them of $50,000. And if the costs that are incurred are greater than $50,000, that will be billed back to WBA.
On that, as far as the cost services go, I mean, we do have an adopted fee schedule where patrol officers, vehicles, anything from fire service to law enforcement to different things there is something in our adopted fee schedule with an hourly rate and the minimum number of hours of officer services. Same way that, you know, whether it's Walmart needing extra staffing on a holiday, there's a fee schedule that is charged for police officers' time to basically you're dedicated to that service. So there is a fee schedule in place that if we were to have to invoice for our labor force than that is already in place. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd also like to footnote in terms of the line item stipends that the town has typically gifted our organizations. Certainly from the WEDAC standpoint, we don't need $2,000. The other point I was going to make is our Weaverville Foundation is very close to launching its first fundraising tranche, and we're sort of in the business of promoting to groups around town that there's donor money available, and we need to organize to go after those things. And so, my demeanor in terms of organizations who are asking the town for money is basically to ask the question, where have you gone before now? So, I'm encouraging, and our group is encouraging other organizations to look for donor money outside of the town coffers first. And, if those things don't yield, maybe there's a good case to come back and ask you. But I think, first of all, we need to try to run the traps in terms of where we can raise donor money. And a good example is the Ball Crank Pickleball organization has got 8 investors, $1.25 million on the table. And so my encouragement is the money's there. You just have to go ask and get organized.
And then another thing that I would like to say about many of these other organizations, we have staff that have stuck through us through COVID, through Helene, and really saved all of us, especially with the fire department and public works and police department too. I mean, they have all stepped up and protected us and kept us viable through all of these pandemics and storms and everything else. And I would much rather see those monies put towards retention bonuses for the staff that has stuck it out with us and take care of our own, because we have not recognized their efforts near what we should have done. And so I'm in a very high favor of either retention bonuses for the staff that stuck it out for us.
I certainly would agree with that as well, Jennifer. And what I'm going to say on the WBA's request should not be taken as support or non-support.
Correct.
But I want to make sure that the one thing is just sort of articulated. I had a great conversation with Fionn about this. And here's how he explained it to me, which kind of came through a little bit, changed the tenor of it a bit. He said that their administrative assistant right now is part-time. And because it's part-time and there's no benefits and there's low salary, it's not a very attractive job. And when that person excels in that job, they're quickly poached away and go to work somewhere else where they can make more money and have more hours. So the request, according to Fionn, was we want to make this full-time job so that people will actually stay and we can retain them. So that's where the etiology of this request actually is. It's interesting to note about that. And I'll just say, the WBA does do a tremendous amount of work for the businesses here, as an incubator. I mean, so again, I'm not supporting or non-supportive of this request right now. I'm still kind of on the fence on this one. But at the same time, I think everybody just needs to know there's this whole part-time, full-time. That's the background of this.
Right, and they do a great job. I'm not at all knocking the job that they do. They do a great job for the town and a great job for the businesses of the town. But I do think that we can't assume a salary of an employee that does not work for the town.
True that.
Yeah. And because we have no oversight, and if we say, okay, let's give this group $60,000 for an administrator's salary, well, then everybody's going to come, oh, well, let's pay for our salaries too. but we have responsibility to our own employees and our own staff to take care of them, and instead of taking the responsibility of a salary of somebody who doesn't work for the town. That's my concern. Not that I disregard their need, I appreciate that, I appreciate what they do, but I would love to see them do some creative things, like maybe charge a fee for a beer bracelet at one of the events, so that they could raise some money. You know, we're gonna sell you this beer bracelet for $10, $20. They help raise some money for their own needs there.
Right.
So,
And Peter, further to your comment, I've introduced Theon basically to Leanne Briggs, who works for Clark Duncan in the Buncombe County Chamber of Commerce, and they're already exploring new concepts for fundraising. They're actually going to put a gadget on the website where if you want to give WBA money, it's possible now.
that's good.
So it becomes one click and some numbers.
I agree with having an employee that doesn't report to the town.
Yep.
I've offered some alternative things, because what they're describing is really they're a booking agent. And booking agents tend to work on commissions, which is some percentage of the fee that they generate. So I'm not sure, and there's some other things that were kind of pointed out towards the end of the Christmas parade this past year, of inappropriate discussion about what was actually happening in the town, and totally misleading, but I was getting calls about, what do you mean this is the last Christmas parade that you're gonna have?
Right.
Not a good picture there. So I think, if we're gonna have somebody that you're paying for, that there need to be some standards that we have some control over.
That's right.
Would it work at all? I know this was kind of discussed, but then not really, it probably doesn't work, but like an embedded employee, to where town employee, but they essentially, they're tasked to do this role in the WBA, so
I
kind of
did
like a
mention
hybrid
that.
position.
I did mention that to WBA, and they want full control of that position.
Yeah.
So,
Well, maybe, yeah, maybe that should be explored a little bit more. Maybe they could come around to that at some level,
I have
but.
a problem with that, especially that type of number.
Yeah.
If it was $3,000, maybe it wouldn't be so bad.
Regarding the cap on town services supplied, has it been a strain on the town in years past?
it's cost $85,000.
I know the cost is there, but that's outside of what's
Well, it requires our
budgeted?
police officers to work overtime, it requires our public works to work overtime,
Right.
to come and set up barricades and
But
patrol.
Is that kind of built into the budgets to where they can incur those costs without like essentially running over what their budgets are? I mean, I'm trying to gauge what that's kind of like developed with the WBA over the years, to where the police and public works are aware that they are gonna incur these costs. They have the budgets currently in place to cover that. And so if it's potentially not so much a problem as currently.
Right, and I'm not saying knock it out completely, I
Right.
just say that we have to have a limit.
Yeah.
Because we can have a street party every week. And,
Yeah.
it taxes our employees, and it taxes our resources, and it costs the town money. And so we have to take that into consideration too, of, how much when is enough?
Right. Town can say no to some of these, or are they committed?
Some of them are the things that are being described are safety issues.
Right. Yeah.
And traffic control.
Yeah.
And the number I heard, there were 100 and some are here. How many entry points were there to the parade route?
118, I believe.
115 or something?
Mhm.
So somebody has to be stationed at those places to keep control of stuff.
Correct.
And they have to be paid.
And we have to make sure that our liquor laws are followed,
Yeah,
and that's another issue.
yeah.
So, it's a multifactorial issue, and, there is a big responsibility on WBA to make sure that the rules are followed. I mean, the rules are clearly set out for them about, here's what we have to do, and those rules have to be followed, but we can't just keep having another event, another event, another event. We have to come to the point that we say, that's it.
So to the police and public works, is it a strain currently, or, I mean, just trying to gauge the.
Hi, good evening. I can't speak for Public Works, so I'll let her talk about it. Yes, the budget is worked in for overtime based on the events that we have. The strain is not the money as much as it is exhaustion. When we start reaching busy season, you know, our standard 2 work weeks is 84 hours already. And then we're pushing them up into, we've got firearms and classes and then the extra events. And just this last week alone, I have people working 130 hours in 2 weeks. And while we are getting, you know, we can plan for what we have now. So we've got, they've listed it, and this is not a big surprise, St. Patrick's Day. They're gonna have Music on Main, and then Art in Autumn. They're talking about an Easter event. It looks like they have the back to school or salute to summer, or whatever they're calling it there. Candlelight stroll, all of those things. They're talking about adding it. And don't forget, we have our own events as well, like the summer music series, 4th of July, holiday parade, Halloween. I've made those presentations. So as those climb, I'm excited to hear that they want to do more, but it does require a significant amount of time and effort from the police for everything from coming out to set up at 3 o'clock in the morning to close the roads for Art in Autumn, and then manning the event itself for multiple reasons that we don't have to delve into, but that's an all-day event. And then closing it back down and maintaining scene security while Public Works cleans it all up. So they're out with us, by the way, at 3 in the morning, right? Putting up all the cones and things like that. So it is more, you guys are very accommodating for our finances, and we're mindful of overtime and having that worked into the budget. It's really more of manpower fatigue for us. The heat of the day, you know, all of those things that contribute to that. Plus, as you may have seen, I added in things like the vehicle defeating barricades, because the longer we hold these full street events like Art in Autumn, the more we need to be mindful of how many times barricades are being moved, and people are getting frustrated with being rerouted. We also have to monitor all the parking, because the events are incredibly successful, yay, for the WBA. But they bring all of that traffic in, and then people park, and then your neighbors call and are very upset that they've been blocked in or someone's on their grass. So we have to monitor not just the event, but all of the periphery and the way that it affects the traffic flow in town.
Or we don't get things cleaned up in time to reopen the road, we disagree with DOT.
Correct. We've had some issues with the road closure, the stage not moving on time, and that could cause a significant, depends on who you ask, but over $10,000 in fees if they don't move the stage on time.
I would just echo what the chief was reiterating to you, but our difficulties is the same, very much similar as what the police go through. We battle our busiest times in the summertime, and so our staff is limited and it is fatigued, and we just, sometimes we will have to put projects off or delay mowing or something. There's a lot of juggling that goes along with staffing these events. Happy to do so, but it's and we are grateful for what you budget for us and mindful of that. But you couple that with the workload and the amount of staff we have, and you throw in some kind of, heaven forbid, some disaster, some big emergency that we have to go out and take care of, then that can impact our budget.
Question, given a concept like Jennifer proposed of capping the contributions, would that solve any of your issues?
I don't think it solves any of the manpower demands, but it does transfer some of the thought process to the people who are making the demands. that do we need the extra events, or how much are we gonna request, or how big of a footprint, or how long, or who's taking responsibility for when we don't move the stuff off the street on time, or, you know, and I believe that Councilwoman Young has talked about some ideas that would make those demands a little less intense on the staff, with suggesting, this is not flushed out, I'm just talking about in brainstorming sessions, could you have music on Main actually be music in the nature park? Because then we're not closing the roads, and we're not fighting some of the same parking issues and the DOT time that it takes us to get permission and write you an ordinance to close the road. It seems like it's a less, if I'm right, that it's a less intensive demand for Public Works to close it and cone detours and things like that.
Plus the risk that is assumed whenever we do close a road, and
Yes.
somebody breaches a barricade that could harm someone.
Right. So a cap may encourage people to think of ways that have a little less demand. It would, I don't know. You know, we're just trying to come up with some options.
It could also be, I saw this in other places, that there are certain events that are co-sponsored by the town, like the Christmas parade or some other event. But then the additional events that they have is billed per man hour, and that was set out in the fee schedule that the manager mentioned. I saw that in places too.
It would also maybe set a precedence for other groups who start coming to the table to ask for the same kinds of service.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's a good discussion. Mr. Eller here still?
Yes.
One thing real quick, Mr. Mayor, before you move on to the comprehensive land use. So on the positions, like I said, one was the half-year finance, and the other, that maintenance tech was a half-year as well. So if you want those converted to full-year positions, let us know that as well. But again, only if you want any of those positions posted beforehand, or what you're comfortable with on that, so we can make sure we have the adequate funding in the budget for you to review on that.
I think it'd be great if we could go ahead and approve the positions so that you can go ahead and start the hiring process, advertising anyway, so that when the budget starts in July, you've got people there ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I support that as well.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the next thing on those two half-year positions, would you prefer those remain half-years, or would you prefer to have those for full-year funded?
Which positions are those?
Right now, the half-year is a position in finance, working at the front window, and a half-year on the maintenance tech and public works, which will be stormwater. The preference would, if you have a preference on which one of those could do a full year, would be stormwater, and still leave the finance at the half-year. Like I said, it's,
I don't know how you could do stormwater in a half year.
Well, and
well, it's just based on when we would fill that position. It's still, be.
so half-year framing also affects recruiting, right?
Correct.
So only one position would be converted to full-time?
No, I mean, there would still be, well, I mean, when I say the finance is part-time, but the other position in the maintenance is a full-time position, but when I'm talking about half-year, we wouldn't advertise it until December. So to where if you, because of the funding mechanism on it, so you don't have a full-year salary budget in there. The finance is a part-time position working up front. But the maintenance tech was funded right now currently in the budget for a half-year position, meaning that we wouldn't have the funding in there for a full-year salary, that funding would start January 1 instead of July 1. So if you are inclined to have that position be funded for an entire year, we can come back to you with those numbers as well, or go ahead and advertise it. Because again, in that position, needing in the stormwater, we were looking at ways of being able to balance the budget in there and still, have staff in those positions.
Yeah, I think for the stormwater, yes.
Yes.
For finance.
Yeah, finance is still, it's a part-time
Yep.
position anyway. I misspoke on the half part of that, but reason that's considered a half position is part-time. The other was a full-time position, but it was funded starting in January 1 versus.
Okay.
So, okay, so we will convert that. All right, thank you for the discussion.
Are you good?
Yep.
Yep.
James? Sorry for the wait.
Not at all. So as you're aware, you had the public hearing on the comprehensive land use plan update earlier in tonight's meeting. If council so chooses, action is eligible at this time. If you would like, there is a resolution that would launch this plan in your packet of information. But before we get there, I want to pause and make sure that I'm available to answer any questions anyone may have at this time.
I appreciate the work that you did with the data center and the crypto miner. I think that's an important part, and I thank you for that.
We'll get to that again in just a moment.
One question,
Yes, sir.
Have public comments been incorporated into the document that have come in?
The ones that have come in most recently, to the degree that we could, we leaned pretty heavily on that public input session that I mentioned prior to the public hearing, simply because it takes quite a long time to develop and craft this language.
I understand that. So if we adopt this, would any updates that are maybe still out there be able to be incorporated at all, or would this, adopting this essentially cut that off?
Adopting this tonight would cut that off. If you wanted to adopt at a later date, should you choose to do that, you certainly can.
I'll make one caveat to that, and that is annually, this board does take a look at your priority, your goals and priorities. And so some of the comments that you've received could be incorporated into that, so that you're not redoing your whole 106-page document next time, but incorporating those comments in your work plan that you want staff to do in that manner.
Any other questions for Mr. Eller?
No.
Is there a motion to be made here?
I'll make it. Move to adopt the updated comprehensive land use plan for the town of Weaverville.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. You're still on?
For code amendments
Code amendments?
on number F. Yep.
I'll still tell managers Harris's comment 2 more times, me again. But as it relates to the proposed text amendment tonight, this deals with the regulation of data centers and crypto mining. As we, as planning professionals in the state, continue to grapple with how to deal with downzoning, this is the most feasible, I guess, response to the issue that I thought we could do. Currently, we define noxious uses. We only allow those through conditional district approval in industrial zoning districts, and this simply includes data centers and crypto mining within that definition, and therefore subject to the same regulations, which is, again, only conditional district, only in industrial zone.
Well, I know that Buckham County has a ban on crypto mining and data centers in the unincorporated parts of the county, and I think it's wise for us to do this, so I'm going to make a motion that we adopt the ordinance amending the Weaverville Town Code, Chapter 20, concerning crypto mining and data centers.
I have a question before we get to the vote, just real quick. Are we sure that the verbiage for crypto mining is correct? Isn't that a shortened word? Do we need to say cryptocurrency or anything like that? I don't know.
I've never seen anything.
I don't either, and this is a relatively new use. When you ask our friends at the School of Government, most of their responses are going to be,
crypto.
I don't know.
You know, I'm just wondering if it needed to be more defined, because everybody knows what a landfill is, but not everybody knows what a data center is, or what a crypto mining operation is.
Well, the term would be cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that's what I said, mentioned
So
earlier.
could we put maybe in parentheses, crypto mining, parentheses, cryptocurrency?
Something, I don't.
Something
And
like
here
that to make it very
It
clear.
says the crypto mining.
I know.
I just read it,
I'm
cryptocurrency.
just,
Best
I'm
descriptive
just
of
wondering
that.
whether or not that's the proper wordage, but, okay.
Or maybe just to add that phrase in there somewhere, just to make it very clear.
Any other comments or edits or,
With that, I support it.
Yeah,
so there's a motion?
yeah, I made a motion
We have a motion to accept this
with the amendment of adding cryptocurrency to the verbiage.
and the ordinance as well.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you.
You're still up.
James is still up. How lucky are we?
Keep going.
Mr. Ellis again.
Mr. Eller. You're still
Eller,
up.
yes.
Quarterly report for the planning department.
The trifecta tonight.
The permit numbers are usually pretty self-evident, so I'll move right on past that unless anyone has any questions related to those. Seeing none, hearing none, moving right along. This is reflective of your planning, of your board activity in January, February, and March as well. In January, the planning board reviewed and approved a revised major subdivision preliminary plan for the property commonly known as 6 Pleasant Grove. That went from 43 units up to 51. The board also received or proposed or reviewed a proposed text amendment related to Session Law 2025-94 and offered a recommendation to Town Council regarding same. That is a relatively minor text amendment that we've chosen to keep on ice and lump in with other things. But that'll be coming forth to you in the coming months as well. February's regularly scheduled meeting got canceled due to weather. However, they had the opportunity to sit with you all the following week in a joint meeting related to the comprehensive land use plan. And then in March, as you saw this evening, they reviewed and offered a recommendation related to crypto mining and data centers. And the board offered an opinion to town council resolution regarding growth areas to incorporate the newly adopted R6 and R10 zoning districts. For your Board of Adjustment, they met twice in February, and that was related to an appeal of an administrative decision which denied a zoning permit to construct a second primary structure on the parcel commonly known as 60 Highland Street. These meetings resulted in a modification of an administrative decision to allow for a second home to be built on the same parcel of land. That's all I have for you this evening, and as always, happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
I'll also add that James served the town as a town representative for a growth meeting out at the Beach Community Center in Reeves Creek and took a lot of arrows for the town. He performed admirably.
I'm not even sure it was for the town, but it was for somebody, and there I stood.
Well, any other questions for Mr. Eller?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Mr. DeSerio. You sit in the back all the time.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council. Thanks for having me. This will be my third quarterly report. So the months of January through March for the community center are usually a time where we're kind of catching our breath after all the holiday stuff and that sort of thing. So it's on the slower side, which is nice. So I'll go ahead and start with the private rentals. So it looks like our total quarterly revenue is $14,763. So that's split about 70-30 from non-resident to resident. Resident being about a little over $4,000 and non-resident a little over $10,000. Oh, and that is, sorry, that's a typo there. You saw April to June. I'm sorry about that. That's January to March. Our community programs are going to be next. So I say this each time, but we have over 30 different community programs that occur every month. And they range in frequency, like I have here, to twice a week, to several times a month, and about 15 people to 60 people in a group. And these classes are led by amazing volunteers that they're passionate about what they do, and we get the benefit of that, which is lovely. They love doing it, and it gets life-giving to them and to the people that they teach. So talking about some of those programs, we have a couple of different updates that happen through January and March. And one of them is, if you go to the next page, is we've relaunched the Life as an Improv class. So that's led by Janice Schreiber, who is also one of the main components or main proponents of theater that happens at the community center, which is lovely. We got to host the WNC Repair Cafe, which was great. How many of you have heard of the WNC Repair Cafe? Okay, great. They basically had their first showing there at the March, and they have several other scheduled times to be at the community center each quarter, I believe, for the rest of the year. So they had a huge turnout. Lots of people got things fixed for free. It was lovely to see the community. And they really also utilize local volunteers too. So that's another spotlight on how the community center is a real platform for people to give back to the community. And then we also had a Life Simplified workshop take place and from local counselors at Ream Creek Counseling Center. So with community programs, I'd like to highlight or spotlight one of our instructors. So Wendy Lantis has been teaching yoga for 4 years at the community center. She does this free. She's a wonderful volunteer. She teaches at least twice a week. Tried out an evening class for a while, and also does workshops throughout the year as well. She's been teaching yoga for over 30 years. So this is somebody who is passionate about what they do. But I'd like to give her a shout out because not only is she been a treasure for us to work with, easygoing, if we have stuff happening, she's very flexible. Obviously, she does yoga. So yeah, she's been flexible and easy to work with. And then on top of that, we hear all the time the type of feedback from her students. Her classes are well attended all over the place. So I just want to give her a shout out and say thank you for being there for us. The community events that we had this quarter, there's a couple different ones. Storytelling, we had 2 different ones that kind of occurred around Valentine's Day. Imperfect Love and Love Stories. And then the Music on the Knoll, the 2 bands that we had January through March, was Peggy's Bygone Blues, which was a really great show, and Chronology Music. So they're that jazz duo that's going to be performing in the summer months as well. And last but not least, we have the pickleball update. So we finally got the updated pickleball signage taken care of. Darla's really happy about that, which is great. And then we have a beginner pickleball clinic starting in May. So that's happening right around the corner. And people are already signed up for that, and that's going to be, I think, a real great hit. All right. Well, that, I think, is it for me. Any questions, y'all?
Thanks for what you do.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Thank you for looking up. Unannounced, that's
Good
fine.
evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will be short tonight. Nothing fun or exciting has happened in the third quarter in the finance department. And I don't ever like going after Mike because my slides are nowhere near as pretty to look at as his are. But on page 200 is the revenue chart with the 4 years of year-over-year third quarter information for you. You can see our tax, it's been a good year for tax collection. It's a little higher than it normally is this time of year. Our sales tax in the middle, we're still just 1% below budget, so just barely below budget there. but nothing really to be concerned about. Buncombe County Fire Protection, next to it, it looks like we're over budget. A couple times this year, they've overpaid one month, held it back the next month. So that's probably what's happened again here. And then water revenue at the end, there also we're slightly below budget, but still a positive trend year over year. On the next page, the expenditures. All of our expenditures are under budget. Fourth quarter is a busy time of year with the town. Departments are trying to finish up projects that might be in the works or maybe haven't even started yet. Some department heads will hold on to, less critical purchases in case something more urgent comes up. And then if it doesn't, they've got the money in the budget to get the needed supplies or whatever it is they need. So we've got a busy quarter underway. Pages 202 to 210 are your detail. That first section, the revenues, the final column, if you see negative numbers, negatives are good in the revenue section. It means we've already exceeded our budget in that revenue. And then we skip to the capital project ordinances. At the end, page 211, water treatment plants had a little more activity in engineering, but that's still all that we've got going on there. The resiliency project, we have finally had some progress there. You'll see $492,000 in the construction cost column because those generators are currently being installed, and that brings our year-to-date to $506,000 for that project, so a little over $500,000 there. And then finally, page 213 is our Helene grant fund. So I'm happy to tell you that all of our projects have been obligated. We've received the funds for most of them. In total, we've received $2.6 million from FEMA. In the cumulative total column there, you see we spent about $2.2 million. That's every expense the town has incurred related to anything to do with the storm. So we are going to have an excess of reimbursement revenue over the expenses. There's one final step. When we close out, we'll be claiming the management costs. We tried to claim every little thing we can. So the time that some salaried personnel has spent, like myself, manager, the time we've spent in meetings, we can claim all of that. So we've got all that in the works. So that'll be the final step. And we hope to have it closed out by the end of this fiscal year. I think we might be the first one in the county. And now we were hit less hard than some, but I think we might be the first one in the county to be closing out.
Well, Tony, you and Scotty continue to do a great job keeping us on track, and I really appreciate that. If you don't mind, though, I know that some people in the town don't quite understand how the sales tax works and that we don't get all the sales tax that we collect. If you could expand on that just a little bit, please.
That's complicated. That's not going to be a quick answer. Yeah. It all goes to the county. There's a couple different ways the county can disperse it. Off the top of my head, I can't even tell you where we're at right now, but it's, Michael might know. It is a complicated progress. It comes from the state, it goes back to the county, and then the county disperses it.
But it's a theoretical truth that we don't get all that we collect always. Yeah. So, it can go who knows where, but just because we have sales tax collected at our businesses doesn't mean that we get all that revenue back.
Right, and then there's different parts of the sales tax. It's not all the same.
Right.
Different, what it's called.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that people understand that.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Tony, quick question. Every department has a line item called professional services. Mm-hmm. And, if you tally the total number, it's over $500,000. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that comes to mind is consultants. Is that what that means?
Some of it, in one of our upcoming budget workshops, we're going to give you the line item detail, just like you have here tonight. Yeah. We'll give you that for the upcoming budget. And then we're also going to explain what's in the professional services. Okay. It's our IT service. A lot of that's Epsilon. Our IT. Okay. It's the audit. It's codification. It's a lot of different things. In public works, it could be more the consulting and the and engineering. Engineering's often there. But yeah, we're planning to give you a breakdown on.
So at the end of the budget year, some of these numbers in terms of, percent utilization of the budget are low. So if the department doesn't spend the money, does it carry over?
It goes into fund balance.
Oh, got it.
Everything at the end of the year, any excess goes into fund balance.
Got it.
And to get it, if we want to, like an unfinished project, if there's money left over, like for streets, for the last several years, we haven't used our streets money. If staff is asking to put it back in the budget, we come to you with a budget amendment, usually in August for a reappropriation. So that's that big reappropriation budget amendment you usually approve. And that's giving us permission to put that money that was unspent in the prior year to put it back in the budget for the current year. It doesn't happen automatically. It automatically all goes to fund balance.
Thank you.
Councilmember Barnett, just for clarification on your professional services, kind of showed it it's not all consulting. I mean, as the county presented at PCIP and CDE last month before last, that falls under there, and we don't really know what those final numbers are going to be. As they talk about, they can change it at their will, so to speak. When I started reviewed their last one that was sent last week, for example, there's a uniform charge on there for $300. Why am I paying for the county uniforms in that aspect? So that's something we're still working with them on as we dive through it, but just show you that there's a wide array of stuff that is listed under professional service, and we're working with department heads to dial that back in to give you a better explanation on what all that encompasses as well.
So is there an alternative?
Immediately, no, but we are working with other municipalities to explore options on what that looks like, and not just locally, talking with other county jurisdictions, Wake County, Charlotte, Mecklenburg, different places that don't have those charges, for CDEs or PCIP or anything else, and working with them on what that looks like and how that is incumbent on the county level. To Councilmember Nable's point before, is it double taxation? So working with them on some language and different things on how to go back to the county and have those conversations with a better understanding of what it looks like other places versus what it looks like here.
Any other questions? Is there any further business to come before council?
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya.
Seeing none, we are adjourned.